It was the moment I've been working towards for ages. With any luck, today I'd graduate to a red belt.
As my friend Cody can tell you, Taekwondo is a great way to stay in shape, both physically and mentally. But at its most basic level, it's all about the art of self-defense, stopping an attacker from hurting you.
The master of your body's self-defense is the immune system. Throughout your life, it stands guard, ready to protect you against invaders. And this isn't just a sparring contest. This is the human body in action.
When I practice my Taekwondo forms, in my mind's eye, I'm always fighting an invisible opponent.
Your immune system also fights enemies that are difficult to see. But under the microscope, many of them come into focus, like all those germs, the things that make you sick.
Who are these microscopic enemies that the immune system has to battle? Let's take a look. Leading the pack are the viruses. The smallest of all microorganisms, they can still pack a knockout punch. A virus literally takes over your cells and it forces them to abandon their real work and instead generate more viruses. Not only are they the might behind minor illnesses like the common cold, chickenpox, and warts, but viruses turn downright deadly in diseases like rabies, hepatitis, and AIDS.
Immune system opponent number 2 is fungi, and I'm not talking about mushrooms here. I mean the kind that grows under your nails or between your toes. Itchy, annoying athlete's foot is also caused by a microscopic fungus.
Next up are the protozoa. With an arsenal of illnesses that includes malaria and amoebic dysentery, they've bred misery all over the world.
Fourth on the list of immune system opponents are harmful bacteria. The most common germs of all, they're behind every kid's nightmare: cavities and acne. And those are the least rotten things that they do.
Bacteria also cause potentially fatal diseases like tetanus and pneumonia. Not all bacteria are bad. In fact, the vast majority are very useful to you, like the ones that live in your intestines and help you process your food.
Not all germs are harmful, and not all diseases are caused by them either. Sometimes a body just operates imperfectly. Diseases that originate in a person's genes, the basic blueprints for life, are hereditary. That means they're inherited from a person's parents, just like hair and eye color. Other illnesses, like certain kinds of heart disease, are prompted by unhealthy lifestyles, like a poor diet or smoking. Environmental hazards can trigger asthma and cancer, and some disorders, like certain forms of arthritis, are simply part of the aging process. Those kind of diseases are non-infectious. They aren't transmitted from one person to another, but a cold is contagious, easily passed along through casual contact. And like all infectious diseases, a cold is spread by pathogens, the microscopic foreign invaders that you and I call germs. Fortunately, your immune system, that vast network of defensive cells and organs, recognizes its enemies. It can tell the difference between cells that belong to the body and those that are alien.
This is the scary part of the test. I have no idea how my opponent will attack me. I just hope I can fend him off.
Unlike Cody's test, how pathogens approach is no mystery at all. They usually get in through the body's open doors, like the nose, mouth, and eyes. They come at us in handshakes and kisses, sneezes and coughs, and many other forms of person-to-person interaction. Some hitch rides to your bloodstream through the mouth parts of insects, like mosquitoes and ticks. Other pathogens sneak in with food that's been improperly prepared or preserved, like eggs or meats. And some pathogens hide out in the water supply.
Ugh! Dirty water is more than gross. It can really make you sick. In many poor countries, unsanitary conditions can lead to outbreaks of dangerous bacterial diseases like cholera.
Improved sanitation methods have saved more lives than medicine or doctors ever could.
As the task got more difficult, I concentrated on the first rule my teacher ever taught me. The best way to defend against an attack is to avoid it altogether.
That is also the body's first line of defense in resisting disease. The best way to stop a pathogen is to simply not let it in. Like a fortress, your immune system equips your body with barriers to prevent pathogen invasions. The fortress wall is your skin. It may seem like a flimsy shield, but compared to a bacteria, it's thick and tough.
Just how many bacteria are hanging out on your skin, trying to get in? And what can we do to stop them?
I've got a busybody experiment to help us find out. For this experiment, you need 3 volunteers. Hi, guys. You also need 3 petri dishes filled with agar, a substance used by scientists to grow bacteria. The dishes should be labeled 1, 2, and 3, and each should be split into 4 equal sections. You'll also need a bar of regular hand soap, some antibacterial liquid soap, and lots of nice, clean water standing by.
Okay, time for our first volunteer.
First, remove the cap from dish 1 and carefully touch only section 1 of your dish. Good. Now, rinse your hands for 5 seconds with plain water and touch your dish's second section. Now rinse your hands again, but this time for 10 seconds. Touch the third section. Finally, rinse your hands for 15 seconds before touching section 4.
Okay, next subject. You'll use dish number 2.
The first step is the same. Touch your petri dish's first section only. Now, wash your hands for 5 seconds, this time using water and regular soap, and touch section 2. Wash them again with soap, this time for 10 seconds, and touch the third section. Now wash your hands with soap for 15 seconds. And, you guessed it, touch section 4.
Next up, you know the routine, right?
This time you'll repeat all those steps, but using the liquid antibacterial soap. Make sure you're careful to touch the right section and not to drip any water on the dish.
Okay, gang, we're just gonna let those dishes sit at room temperature for a few days. In the meantime, think about which dishes and which sections will have the most bacteria growth. Time to check the petri dishes to see what's happened.
Take a close look and be sure to write down your observations. Compare section 1 in each dish. That's the one that was touched before any washing or rinsing. It's pretty clear that this is where the most bacteria have grown.
But look at sections 2, 3, and 4. With each washing of hands, there's less and less bacteria growth.
In conclusion, we can plainly see that our skin harbors bacteria. Washing our hands, even with just plain water, can help rid us of many of them. And our immune systems get an extra helping hand when we wash with soap.
Your skin's really got you covered. If you stretched out the average adult's skin, it'd take up about 6 square meters. But what's protecting those openings, like the mouth, eyes, and nose?
Like guards at the gate, bodily secretions block those entrances. Your saliva contains enzymes that kill certain bacteria. Every time you blink, tears bathe your eyes to wash away intruders. Mucus lines your nose and throat, ready to catch and expel wandering pathogens. Often, they're carried down to the stomach where the same gastric juices that digest your food destroy them.
So the first line of defense consists of your skin and fluids like saliva, tears, mucus, and gastric juices. Your body also rids itself of germs through reflexive actions like sneezing and coughing.
My teacher's second rule is, when you've identified your opponent's weak spot, turn up the heat.
The body turns up the heat with its second line of defense, the inflammatory response.
Inflammatory literally means on fire. An infected area is hotter than the surrounding skin. It prevents heat-sensitive bacteria and viruses from progressing any further. The inflammatory response takes over when the first line of defense fails.
Mayday! Mayday! We have incoming!
When you get a cut, pathogens rush in, triggering the inflammatory response.
Okay, blood vessels, open up! We gotta make way for our attack units, the white blood cells. They'll eat those intruders up and keep that blood flowing in. Swelling tissues are hot, hot, hot! Let's steam those pathogens right on out of here!
When you have a fever, your whole body temperature rises. Heat kills pathogens and sends out an alarm to the immune system to send in the troops. The brunt of the fighting is done by white blood cells, the heroes of the immune system. Many are produced in bone marrow.
If the intruder is a virus, the inflammatory response may also stimulate cells to release interferons. Racing from an infected cell, they send out a warning cry to the healthy neighbors. Interferons close up all the cell's doors and windows known as receptors, leaving the virus with no point of entry.
Sometimes, the best defense is to go on the attack.
The third and final line of defense against disease is the lymphatic system, the home of the body's most potent fighting force. The lymphatic system is a vast network of vessels and tissue masses called lymph nodes, and includes organs like the tonsils, the thymus, and the spleen. Like a giant filter, this network cleans foreign substances, like bacteria, out of the bloodstream, trapping them in the lymph nodes. At the same time, the lymph nodes produce special white blood cells to fight those intruders.
When you were sick, did you ever get swollen glands? Those are lymph nodes, and the reason they're swollen is that they're filled with trapped pathogens and the white blood cells that are battling them.
Lymph nodes aren't the only place showdowns between pathogens and lymphocytes are staged. Like a sheriff patrolling the streets, a T cell is a white blood cell that rides the bloodstream searching for pathogens on the loose. It remembers who its enemies are, and when it comes across one, it calls in the B cells. B cells bring in the heavy artillery. They produce antibodies that are specifically designed for particular pathogens. Like a key in a lock, an antibody fits onto the surface of its targeted pathogen, often rendering it harmless. It also serves as a homing device for another lymphocyte, the phagocyte. Kind of like a torpedo aimed at a submarine, the phagocyte cruises the bloodstream and seeks out pathogens tagged by antibodies and destroys them.
So, the lymphatic system makes use of several different kinds of white blood cells to fight off invaders. T cells, B cells, and phagocytes. To help make sense of it all, let's pay a visit to Dr. Dennis Disher, a research scientist who studies how white cells work, and he's our science star.
My name is Dr. Dennis Disher. I'm a researcher in the area of bioengineering. Our blood is actually an important component of the immune system. Not only is it part of the oxygen delivery system, but it also circulates immune system components. The immune system is the system in the body that deals with foreign invaders. In some ways, the immune system has multiple levels, like a castle has defenses. There's a first level of defense that is constituted by the skin. If the foreign invaders can't get in, then they can't cause any damage. But if they can get beyond a first level of defense, then the immune system has to kick in a more active way. Let's say you're riding your bike and you fall off and you get a scrape, and your wound is exposed to dirt and microscopic microorganisms. And at a very microscopic level, what's going on is the invading microorganisms are recognized by white cells. Within the sea of red blood cells, there are white cells that crawl around and look for these microorganisms. White cells remove foreign microorganisms by a process called phagocytosis, which is essentially wrapping around this foreign invader, and then the white cell breaks down the microorganism into small bits and pieces. Because white cells only live for a few days at most, they constantly have to be made somewhere, and generally blood cells are made in the bone marrow. If you're healthy this week but sick the following week, and you take a small sample of your blood, you will literally see that in the week that you're healthy, there's a few white blood cells, just enough to counteract in case you do fall off your bike and you need some white cells to take care of the invading microorganisms. But if you're sick, you'll have a lot more white blood cells circulating, trying to get a handle on and overcome the invading organism.
Once your body has learned how to beat a pathogen, your immune system is ready to take on that same pathogen if it ever invades again. This ability to resist a disease is known as immunity. Fortunately, we don't always have to suffer through an illness in order for our bodies to learn how to fight it. Modern medicine has a far less painful way: the vaccine. Introduced into your body either orally or with an injection, it contains a dead or very weak strain of a virus. Sensing an invader, your B cells produce new antibodies designed specifically for that pathogen. The next time you're exposed to this particular virus, your body will already be armed with the proper antibodies to fight the disease.
Hold on to your history books. Here comes a body blast from the past.
The year was 1953, and the world was battling a vicious virus known as poliomyelitis, or polio for short.
Only a few medicines can fight viruses, so usually when you catch one, you just have to let it run its course.
In the case of polio, that meant disaster. As it attacked the nervous system, the virus left about half of its victims paralyzed. The hardest hit were children. For years, microbiologist Jonas Salk led the crusade to discover a vaccine for polio. When in 1955 he finally succeeded, he was hailed as an international hero.
Today, most kids in developed countries live without fear of polio or measles, mumps, or chickenpox for that matter. These and many other viruses can be prevented with vaccines.
When your body makes antibodies, you develop what's called active immunity to a disease. Your immune system knows how to produce the necessary fighting force. In passive immunity, the antibodies are not produced by the immune system, but are introduced into the bloodstream from outside the body. A newborn has this kind of immunity. Some of the mother's antibodies pass from her right to the baby. Unfortunately, passive immunity doesn't last. Eventually, antibodies wear out. When they do, a body that has passive immunity doesn't know how to make more.
Unlike viruses, bacterial infections can be treated with medication prescribed by your doctor. Drugs called antibiotics seek out and destroy disease-causing bacteria. But pathogens are tricky. They too can develop resistance, forcing you to switch to ever more powerful medications. So don't stop taking that medicine just because you feel better. Some of the bacteria may still be alive, and the survivors might be able to beat your antibiotic. So be sure to always follow the doctor's instructions exactly.
The only thing left standing between me and my red belt was the break test. I had to wonder, had I done all I could to prepare for this moment?
How well prepared are you to face the pathogens all around you? There are lots of simple things you can do to help your immune system. Eat well and stay away from too much junk food. Get plenty of exercise and rest. Both help reduce stress, giving your immune system a major boost. So the immune system is the body's own system of self-defense, fighting against injury and disease.
Two kinds of disease confront your body. Non-infectious disease is a disorder of the body itself. It can be triggered by genes, the environment, an unhealthy lifestyle, or the normal aging process. But infectious disease is caused by pathogens. Microinvaders like viruses, fungi, bacteria, and protozoa.
Good thing your body's immune system has 3 lines of defense. First and foremost, it protects you from pathogens with barriers like skin and mucus. The second line of defense is the inflammatory response, which uses fever and swelling to turn back invaders. And last, it uses the bloodstream to launch the ferocious fighting white blood cells of the lymphatic system.
I focused all my energy into that one motion and...
With vaccines and antibiotics, many diseases can be battled through a trip to the doctor's office. But you are your own best defense. Take care of your immune system, and it'll help you keep your human body in action.